She took a few steps towards him. Is this exciting you, being alone in a hotel room with me? Louise giggled. I think it's pretty obvious that it is. I like it, Kevin replied as he wondered how far Louise would go. Oh, I was hoping you would say that. Come and get me. Louise crooked a finger at Kevin, as she grabbed his tie, walking backward and pulling him over to the nearest bed. Can you guess what happens next? God, I needed that so badly. Louise was the first to speak after several minutes. Are you that thorough with all your female clients? Kevin laughed at Louise's joke, but he wasn't sure what to say. It's all right, Kevin, this is just between the two of us, Louise said reassuringly. Nobody need ever find out, it just happened because of the circumstances. Kevin nodded in understanding. We both needed it, that's for sure, yes, just between us, our secret. Louise smiled and rested her head against Kevin. You are a very naughty little girl, Kevin said, grinning. Me, a naughty girl? Why is that? Louise giggled as she looked at him in feigned surprise. Shame on you for seducing your driver like that. Not the done thing for a young lady of breeding in your social position. So what happens to such naughty girls? Louise inquired with wide-eyed innocence. Oh, naughty girls get spanked, no question about that. Kevin said. You're going to spank me? Are you kidding? Louise questioned as she looked at him seriously. Yes, if you want to try it, Kevin said uncertainly, wondering if he'd taken this game too far. Oh God, Kevin, it's something I've dreamed about for years. Louise said excitedly. You'll really spank me? Sure. I'd love to spank you sometime if we see each other again, he said, relieved that he hadn't messed things up by moving too fast. Oh, we will definitely see each other again, Louise replied, and you can give me my first spanking. Your first spanking? You mean you've never been spanked before? He asked, incredulously. No. My parents didn't really raise me. I was pretty much raised by my nanny. My father was always working and my mother, well, she never really paid a lot of attention to me. She was too caught up in her social commitments and her image. I was raised by my nanny and she was too afraid of getting in trouble to spank me. I got sent to my room or I didn't get to go out with my friends or something. But I've never gotten a spanking before, she said, the excitement of such an event happening to her obvious in her tone. Oh wow. I didn't realize you had been allowed to run unbridled for so long. Yes, it is high time you learned there are consequences for your actions, Missy, he said. He moved over to sit on the desk chair which didn't have arms on it. Now get over here. Kevin said, pointing to the ground in anger. Louise walked over to where he was sitting, barely able to contain her excitement and stay in character. Now, because this is your first spanking, I am going to give you some code words to use so I know how you are doing. If I ask you how you're doing and you are okay, you say green. If I ask and things are getting harder, you say yellow. But if you call out red, that means stop and I will stop whatever I'm doing instantly. Understand? This is supposed to be sexy and fun and I don't want to hurt you. So red means stop, yellow means slow down, and green means go for it, just like a traffic light, he said. Okay, she said. Ready? Kevin asked. I've been ready for this for a long time, darling, Louise replied excitedly. Kevin shook his head from side to side in disbelief at his luck as he gazed at the sexy lady waiting impatiently. Kevin took a deep breath as he raised his hand and brought it down with a soft smack. Can you guess what happens next? After, Louise and Kevin decided to take a walk along the beach. Kevin had never seen the beach like this and walking hand in hand with such a beautiful, sexy woman made it even more special. The stretch of beach was nearly deserted as they wandered hand in hand along the wet sand close to the water. They walked along the beach for a short distance and then up along the boardwalk as they headed back to the hotel. Tomorrow we are going shopping. I can't ask you to spend all weekend in that suit, well, when you are dressed, that is, she giggled. Well, I have to tell you, Mrs. Thorndyke, your other outfit is quite becoming as well, he said, grinning. You are such a charmer, Kevin. That suit is a little outdated and it has been hanging in the closet for a long time, I'm afraid, she said. Hearing her words, Kevin turned her to face him. Nonsense, Louise, you make it look young and vibrant and very beautiful. It looks good on you and I want you to model it for me more, he said, with his hand softly on her cheek. Oh Kevin, she said. I've waited so long to hear words like that. You don't know what it means to be appreciated like this again. You make me feel like a woman again, like I matter and like I am, well, you know what I mean. Yes, Louise, I know exactly what you mean. And I'm glad I can make you feel that way because you deserve to feel appreciated and cared for. You are a wonderful woman, he said. She wrapped her arms around him, kissing him long and deep. They go back to the hotel, walking arm in arm, Kevin and his lovely companion. The next day he woke up early and started taking a shower. After they finished shower, the pair went down to the hotel restaurant for breakfast, then out for a little morning shopping trip. We need to get you something to wear besides your chauffeur's suit, honey. I mean, you are handsome in it of course, but it's just not something you can wear the whole weekend. Louise said. What did you have in mind? Kevin asked. Well, I always liked those muscle t-shirts and a pair of jeans on a guy, you know. You got a nice hunk body, darling, you should show it off a bit. It would make all the other girls and women want you and make me feel so good that I have you. Okay, if that's what you want me to wear, then that's what I will wear. I have to look good for my girl, he said, smiling. I'm your girl? She asked. Of course. Don't you want to be? He asked. Oh, I do. I do. It's just, well, I haven't been anybody's girl for a long time, Kevin. And you just caught me a little by surprise saying it, she said. Sweetheart, you can consider yourself my girl then. Now, let me try these on and you can tell me what you think, he said. He went in and tried on the black jeans and the black muscle t-shirt that she had picked out for him. When he was ready, he came out to show her. Yes, I knew this would look good on you. My man in black, great, she said, giggling and clapping her hands. Well, if you like them, then I'll wear them. He said. That's what's so sexy about them, baby. She whispered. Now let's get you something to wear while swimming. We are at the beach and I love the water, she said. They walked over to the swimming trunks rack and she picked out a pair of trunks for him. What about you, though? What are you going to wear to the beach? He asked. Oh, I'm going to get myself a suit too. Want me to model some for you? She asked. Now, that is a silly question. Let's see, he said. You are so sweet. Okay, baby, sit down here and I'll go pick a few things out. Then I'll try them on and let you see them, she said. He took a seat in front of the dressing room area and she went off to pick out some swimwear. She slipped into the dressing room after blowing him a kiss and a couple minutes later came out. Louise stepped out from around the corner and shows him the bikini she was wearing. Oh wow, Louise. Look at you. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Great, he said as he stood up. You really like it? She asked. Yes. You have to get this one, baby. This one suits you. You're my golden girl, he said. Louise giggled. Okay, if you like this one, I'll get it, she said. She set the other choices aside to be restocked and went to change into her street clothes. Then they paid for their purchases and went back to the hotel. You know, it's still early, want to try these suits out on the beach? I want to see what kind of reaction my golden girl gets from the guys, he said. You're terrible, she said teasingly. Hey, I just want to show off my girl off, he said. No, you want to rub their noses in the fact you got a rich old lady, she said. No, I got a rich young lady who is sexy, he corrected. Louise stepped up and put her arms around his neck. "You are so special and so wonderful. How come some hot little thing hasn't scooped you up yet?" she asked. "Because I was waiting for the right little thing to come along." "What took you so long?" he said. "Sorry, I got distracted. I fell for the wrong smooth talker," she said. "Well, that doesn't matter now. You're mine now and that's what counts," he said. "Yes, I am, Kevin. I'm all yours. If you want to go to the beach and show off your golden girl, then I will give them a show that will make their eyes pop out," she said. They got dressed in their swimsuits and taking a couple towels and robes from the hotel, they went down to the beach. He borrowed a couple unused beach chairs and laid the towel down on them, then he took off his robe, draping it over the back. He helped Louise off with her robe and admired the way the sun lit up her metallic gold swimsuit, making his golden girl glow like an angel. Then he took Louise by the hand and they went into the water. They waded deeper and deeper until the water was just below shoulder height on her and a little lower than that on him because he was taller. He pulled her close and held her. "You really are beautiful, Louise," he said. He leaned in and placed his lips on her soft sweet lips, kissing her deeply and passionately, letting the whole world fade away until it was just the two of them. Kevin carried Louise from the water and back to their beach chairs. He set her down gently on the chair because she couldn't trust her wobbly legs to hold her up. They sat there on the beach watching the surf and holding hands for about an hour before deciding they should get back to the hotel. Sadly, the next day, they had to leave their idyllic beach vacation spot and head back to the rigors of the real world. He had to get back to driving the limo and she had her life with Richard. They continued to see each other whenever they could, either she would hire him to drive her to secretive rendezvous where they could spend some precious time together, or even better, when Richard would make one of his business trips, they could spend some real time together. Their covert relationship continued for about 4 months after Atlantic City. During that time, Richard made 3 out-of-town trips with his secretary, and Louise and Kevin got to see more of each other than just an hour here and there. Whenever Richard went on one of his trips, they made sure they went out of town also so they wouldn't be found out and reported to Richard. She took him to Boston on one trip, and on another they went upstate to Rotterdam to show him where she was raised. Kevin got to see more of the country in the 4 short months they had been together than he had the entire rest of his life. One day they had come back from one of their extended weekends together and Kevin dropped her off at her house as usual. He had gone home after work and was relaxing at home when the phone suddenly rang. "Hello?" he said, answering the phone. It was Louise. "Oh, Kevin, please come over quick. I need you. Hurry, please, Richard has gone crazy," she said. Kevin jumped into his pants and shirt and drove like a madman over to her place. She met him at the door and he walked in to find their beautifully decorated house in shambles. Louise herself was a wreck, her hair a tousled mess, and she was bleeding from her lip and had a badly bruised eye as well as other bruises on her arm and fingerprint bruising around her neck. "Did he do this to you?" Kevin asked right off. "Yes," she said, trying to hide her face from him. "Come on, we are taking you to the hospital first off," he said, and he drove her to the emergency room to get medical attention. As he drove her to the hospital she explained what had happened. Richard came home in a terribly foul mood. Apparently, he and Candy had a big fight and she quit on him. He had to come back early and we weren't home yet. So he was out looking for me when you dropped me off. He came back after you'd gone and we got into it. This was the first time he actually hit me, though. Normally he just yells, says awful things to me, and calls me names. But this time I guess he was already looking for a fight. Well, there's no excuse for hitting you. Just because he's a jerk and his little secretary left him is no reason to come take it out on you," Kevin said angrily. After they got to the hospital and Louise had gotten medical attention, he took her back home and stayed with her in case Richard came back home for another round. While they were there, Louise called her father, who then made some calls of his own. The next day when Richard finally came home after work, Louise was waiting for him. "What is all this? Richard said angrily. There in the living room was Louise, Kevin, Louise's father and the family lawyer along with 3 police officers, one of which was female. Mr. Thorndyke, my name is Peter Feinstein. I am the lead attorney at Feinstein & Associates. I have been retained by Mr. Reynolds here to serve as their legal counsel. I have here in my hand the medical records of Louise and it documents what you have done to her. Let me sum it up. She has a slight concussion, multiple bruises, a black eye, and a badly cut lip from your beating her last night. The doctors said she was lucky to have come in without needing an ambulance. He continued, after talking with Louise about her marriage to you and after her father hearing and seeing what you have done to his daughter, it is her decision that you and she no longer remain in this marriage. So she has filed for divorce. You are hereby served. Feinstein carried on, now should you refuse to accept the terms of this divorce in full, you will be remanded to the custody of these officers and sent to jail for assault and battery, and the divorce will still go through, this time under an abusive relationship umbrella. He added, in addition to the divorce papers, this is a restraining order. It states that you are to remain a minimum of 500 feet away from Louise and from this house and property. If you do not, you will be promptly arrested for trespassing and these other matters will then come into play as well. Feinstein concluded, Louise has graciously agreed to allow you 30 minutes to pack your clothes and toiletries that you will need. These officers will remain here while you gather your clothes. Nothing else is to leave this house until the divorce is finalized. You will be allowed the car since you need to get back and forth to work. Do you understand what I am telling you, sir? This is a very grave matter and you can consider yourself very fortunate you are not already in handcuffs. I strongly suggest you heed the terms I have outlined and just find someplace else to live, peaceably and without comment or argument, the attorney said. Richard looked at Louise, then at Kevin and then at the officers. Then he grudgingly went into the bedroom followed closely by the 2 big male officers to gather his belongings. He came back into the living room with 2 suitcases in his hand. You can consider yourself fired, he said to Kevin. Sorry sir, but you cannot fire me because I never worked for you. I worked for the limousine company so only they can fire me. And I have quit my job there because Mrs. Thorndyke, I'm sorry, Louise, had picked me up as her personal driver. So you do not have the authority to fire me, he said confidently. If you have everything, sir, you need to leave, one of the officers said. Then he left the house, but not without a last angry look at Louise. Epilogue. Louise and Richard got their divorce and because of his cheating and a long history of abuse, culminating in the assault and battery, he was not given any kind of alimony settlement. He walked away with what he brought into the marriage and that was it. He moved away shortly after the divorce was finalized. Kevin and Louise continued to see each other and after the divorce was settled. He moved in with her. The following year he proposed and she accepted and they were married that spring. They honeymooned in Atlantic City in the very room of the hotel they had their first vacation together in.